I call it the humanity of the church, and I think jealousy does play a role.
It's always full sheen ahead at Virgin Most Powerful Radio, so sign up for our newest event, A Day with Bishop Sheen, with Dr. Peter Howard, founder of the Fulton Sheen Institute. It is vital for all our listeners to attend the event, either online or in person, to learn about Sheen's prophetic vision for the future of the church.
Like Sheen said, as if he was looking right to this moment and says, like, who's going to save the church? It's not going to be us priests or religious, but you, the people,
yes.
And you have the eyes, the ears, and the mind to save the church.
A Day with Bishop Sheen. Sign up at vmpr.org.
Actually, we're back with Dr. Peter Howard. He is I call him a young man since I'm older than him. He's promoting the cause of Fulton Sheen. He has a website called FultonSheenMovement.com. Please go to the website, sign your name and saying that you're supporting the beatification of Fulton J. Sheen. And we've been talking, if you just tuned in, about the cause of Fulton Sheen and his life and how valuable his writings and his audio recordings are to Holy Mother, the Church, and that if he, please God, will be beatified, there's going to be more of an emphasis on his writings and his audio recordings. And I think that many souls will be benefited by it. Like right now, we have on Tuesday night, we have our convert course that we teach for the Anglican Ordinariate parish that I'm a member of. And in 12 weeks, people become Catholic after the course. And part of the course is listening to Bishop Sheen's convert course called Life is Worth Living. We also use the Baltimore Catechism number 4, and it's on our website, Full Sheen Ahead. People can watch it. We're finding that people who are Catholic all their lives are going, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And all we're doing is going back to the fundamentals of our faith. It's almost like, Peter, that we've had amnesia, that we just haven't been taught these fundamental teachings. And I think Fulton Sheen is the key in that. But I left people at the edge of their chairs about Cardinal Spellman, the Cardinal of New York. He and Fulton Sheen, if you read the autobiography of Treasure and Clay, Bishop Sheen just kind of talks about that, but he doesn't give the details and how it was a suffering for him. But Peter, tell us about the issue that Fulton Sheen and Cardinal Spellman had and how the Pope resolved it.
Well, there were two issues, and they both revolved around really power and influence. Sheen succeeded Cardinal Spellman as the national director for the Society for Propagation of the Faith. So he was in charge basically of like 75% of the whole church's treasury toward the missions.
Yes.
And Spellman had done that as well prior to him. And so he traveled around the world. I mean, they traveled more than the popes did. And Spellman groomed Sheen to assume this position. And then when Sheen took the position, he took it very, very seriously. He had a great heart for the missions, and he wanted every dime that was intended to go to them. So the first time Spellman came in, and he was known for, like, wherever he would arrive, kind of having presents for everybody. And he tried to basically dabble into the funds of the society, and Sheen said no. And that was like a movie moment, because nobody said no to Cardinal Spellman. I mean, his biography is called America's Pope. And they would joke saying, he was the only prelate who had a direct line to the Pope. And so that didn't go well. But the next one was more significant. Was Cardinal Spellman came across these a whole bunch of powdered milk, and it was worth like millions of dollars. Yep. And let's just be conservative. Let's just say at least $1 million. But in those days, that's a lot of money. And he kind of donated it to the society, but then asked to be compensated for it. And Sheen's like, I know that you didn't pay for that. And he had the receipts. Well, anyway, this rift went before, it was Paul VI. And in the presence of Paul VI, Sheen was able to prove, really right in front of him, that Spellman was lying. And like the music just changed, this dramatic movie moment. And as soon as Spellman lost, face with the Pope, he was determined to destroy Sheen. Yeah. And he did. He pulled the plug on the show, literally overnight. And everybody wondered, like, what happened to Sheen? Sort of like, what happened to his beatification? Yep. And anyway, the rest is history, in that respect. Sure. But I mean, Sheen, I think one of the things that he could be the patron of is of the patron of cancel culture. I mean, he was the first major cancel. I mean, he had, 30 million people a week that he was reaching. 60% were non-Catholic. The whole world knew him.
Yeah.
So when the plug got pulled on that wasn't like, your 2:00 infomercial in the morning. This was a guy literally forming the world. And that was a big deal. And Spellman, that Spellman's revenge. And Sheen kept it, he kept it to himself. But it's also when he wrote his greatest works, like Life of Christ. He said he wrote that during that time.
Yes.
And he alludes to the period of time of great suffering that he was in. And it ends, coincidentally, the year Spellman died. But, he never really went into that. Yeah. And so it's kind of come back to haunt him in a certain respect, because then the battle over his body, between New York, the Archdiocese of New York, Diocese of Peoria, this whole thing, which has just made this beatification process dragged out. And now I think that there's still a lot of I think it's all on the human level.
Yes.
That is
of the church
behind this.
Yeah. I call it the humanity of the church. And I think jealousy does play a role.